This is ESPN Esports. My name is Ardo Cal, joined in Bristol by Jacob Wolf, and live in Dallas via satellite is Chris Chaney, the former president and co-founder of Infinite Esports and Entertainment. Chris, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I know that you've done a couple of appearances since leaving Infinite last October, but you haven't done too many. So we very much appreciate you joining us here. Let's get right into it. Can you just take us through some of your decisions and reasoning behind leaving Infinite last October?
Sure. I think when we started the company, or when we officially launched in September 2017, we had an ambition to build a business that really took a holistic approach to esports, not just on the professional team side, but also cover other areas of the space. You could almost consider us a venture builder at the time. We owned, obviously, a number of professional esports teams, including Optic Gaming and the Houston Outlaws. But at the same time, we were looking at what kind of complementary businesses we could launch into the ecosystem, where we saw opportunity, some white space, if you will, and to be a catalyst on a holistic level. So when we launched the business, that was the vision that we were pursuing, and obviously it's hard. It's hard to launch a few businesses at the same time, to be in full-on startup mode, while also, of course, catering a lot to the team side, which takes up a significant amount of resources and attention of the leadership team and of our staff. So ultimately, our partners, my partners in Infinite, made the decision that it was best for us to focus primarily on the team side and reallocate resources there, versus also being active again as a venture builder in the space. And for me, it was really important that we also had the venture approach. And so I decided that it's best to allow a new executive team to take the reins and lead the company in a new direction, step away and focus on some new opportunities in the meantime.
You know, it was a little bit more than a year in between the time that you all started the company and that you left, and it seemed like a lot changed based on the vision, right? They wanted to focus more on the team side and less on the venture side. Was something not communicated properly in the very beginning of the business, or did sort of the ideas of your ownership group sort of change? What happened there?
Well, I think, again, you get into the space and things quickly evolve, right? The industry as a whole, as well as the business that we were building. So it was the approach from the get-go, but once you're in it, things are always different. And you have some battle wounds when you launch a business like this very, very quickly. And then, you might make the decision, and obviously that decision was made, to change directions. And I respect that from an investment and from a strategic perspective, not the direction that I wanted to take in. But, it makes sense because the team side alone is obviously very, very intense, again, in terms of both financial as well as human financial capital, as well as human resources, and so that was the new direction. But it was our plan from the get-go to take this holistic approach, and then we got into it, and we certainly had a lot of learnings in a very short period of time, and then the decision was made to take the company in that new and different direction.
Well, since you were the president and co-founder, how difficult a decision was that for you?
As you can imagine, when you launch a business and you spend countless thousands of hours on it, it really becomes a part of you, and Infinite was very much a part of me. So that decision was not easy at all. It was not easy for me to see the new direction, and to ultimately make the decision that was not what I wanted to pursue on a personal level, and the vision I had for the company, and many of us I think had for the company. So it was very, very difficult, but ultimately I felt that it was the right decision to make.
So you had other people who came into your business that owned a part of Infinite, but the other people didn't necessarily come into Infinite directly. It seemed like some of your shareholders, like Neil Liebman and Ray Davis from the Texas Rangers and John Havens from the Houston Astros, didn't necessarily want to sell part of their equity to raise for the business. So first, is that true? And second, when did it become apparent to you that it wasn't about raising anymore, it was about selling the entire business outright?
Well, I think overall last year was very fluid, right? We launched a business officially in September 2017. I had been working on it as far as laying the groundwork in terms of strategy and plan as far back as mid 2016. So it took us a little over a year to actually get the business launched and secure the funding and bring in some great local partners, which was exciting for us because we wanted to build this business in Texas, both ultimately in Dallas as well as in the Houston market. And so finding local partners was great for us. But we really actually didn't get off the ground until early 2018. So the year was very fluid, a few months of setting some things up, and then we went, we were just sprinting the whole time, the entire year. And that's difficult, a 12-month or so sprint is not easy. So I think overall things were fluid. We did have some conversations about a potential capital raise. Ultimately made the decision that we didn't want to do that. And of course that's an ongoing discussion to have to figure out whether it makes sense to bring on new or other capital partners. But we decided not to. And then as the year progressed, I think it became apparent that maybe the direction would be to ultimately sell the business or maybe merge it into another business. But again, even that is very fluid. So I can't necessarily pinpoint a particular time when that became apparent because we had a lot going on. And again, it was, to use that term, it was very fluid throughout the year. But I certainly thought maybe around last year's summer or so that might be a direction that we could take. And if that was the case, that I would want to see if I could assemble a group to potentially buy the business if that were an opportunity, because I felt so strongly about it. I still do, even though technically now the business as such doesn't exist anymore, Infinite that is. But yeah, probably last year summer. And for me, it was never a question about leaving. It was never a question about wanting to sell the company. But I fully understand from an investment and a strategic perspective that you have to, if you see opportunities, you might have to take advantage of those, or you might have to make a decision to exit an investment or to, again, merge with another company if that were a possibility.
So Chris, just to clarify there, if you had your way, you would have done another round of funding and you would still be involved in the company, assuming that it would still be around.
Yes, I think, of course, as a founder, that's naturally, I'd say, my preference. Let's add some additional capital partners and maybe, make changes to the business that make sense and keep improving and keep fine-tuning, absolutely so, and continue to build a great company. We didn't have that opportunity, and that's not the decision that was ultimately made. But yes, of course, as I mentioned, I was very emotionally, personally, and deeply so invested in the business, and I would have loved for us to continue on that journey and keep succeeding, keep growing, and then who knows where we would have been next year or even beyond that.
You acquired one of the most popular teams in all of esports and Optic when you started this business, and then you launched the Houston Outlaws, which quickly springboarded the Outlaws into becoming one of the most popular teams in the Overwatch League. Was there any one particular moment to you that you realized, holy crap, this is incredibly popular, and you can't even imagine the fan interest that actually happened in real life?
Well, we were very, very lucky. It was a tremendous amount of work, but we were lucky in the sense of having fantastic players and being able to very quickly build such a strong, passionate fan base. And yes, that requires a tremendous amount of work, but it's also partly good fortune. The right market, the Houston Outlaws do include also Houston and Austin. Austin and San Antonio, I'm sorry, as home markets. And so for us, it was very much as an approach of building this, Texas identity. We had great players, very charismatic players, very likable players, and also, of course, we had a good first season. I think our brand translated well for the Overwatch League audience in terms of colors, in terms of brand identity, the things we were doing on social media, the things we were doing in terms of content, always looking to push the envelope to do cool new things that we thought would resonate with the Overwatch and Overwatch League fans. So we were very lucky on the one hand, and then on the other hand, we certainly did a tremendous amount of work to achieve that. But we could see within a few weeks of the season starting, actually within a few days of launching our Twitter account, we just saw immediately this excitement around the Houston Outlaws, and I mean it was really an amazing journey to build this team from an idea, from joining the league and coming up with names and looking at logo designs and color schemes, and then ultimately to see the brand launch and have the success that we did in season 1.
So talk about what's happened since. I mean, I understand that you even tried to buy when the sale was being made, but even in the last 6 months, what's been going on and what's on your plate today as well?
Sure. So on the one side, I've been really active working with a number of esports and gaming startups as an advisor. I'm really passionate about working with fellow entrepreneurs and helping them achieve success in their respective companies and startups. So that's been a very rewarding experience for me and something that I passionately do. So I'm working with startups both here in the US as well as internationally, covering a pretty wide array, I would say, of the esports and gaming ecosystem. So that's been one part of my work recently. And then, yes, we also did put in a bid for Infinite for the entire business, because I mentioned, and I can only underline that, how passionate I was about the company and about the people in particular that we had. I actually felt and still feel that we had some of the most talented people in all of esports, and we're very, very fortunate to have had such a great team all around us, all around the organization. So I did put in a bid, and ultimately we were not successful in acquiring the business. And of course the sale closed in mid-June, just a few weeks ago, and now Infinite does have a new owner. But I've been very active on the startup advisor side, and also actually working on launching a couple of new businesses in the space.
So you mentioned a new owner, that was Immortals. Immortals, though, also owns the Los Angeles Valiant, and they can't own both. They can't own the Valiant and the Outlaws. And as you may have read on ESPN.com, they have a new owner. The Houston Outlaws have a new owner, and Lee Zybin, he's a real estate investor in Houston, and he will be the owner of the Houston Outlaws. So Chris, I want to ask you this. How do you feel about this new owner, someone who has a similar background to some of the people that originally started the Outlaws with you in your investment group? How do you feel about Lee sort of buying up this team, and what do you think the future of the Outlaws looks like?
Well, first off, I'm really excited about the future of the Outlaws and next season of the Overwatch League. I feel that we've built a really amazing brand. over the last year and a half, going on 2 years. And it's great to see the Outlaws in new hands, and obviously with Immortals not being able to own the 2 teams, which of course makes perfect sense, it's great to have someone local that's getting behind the team and that passionately believes in the Houston Outlaws as a brand, as well as in the Overwatch League. And so I think it's great overall for the organization. It also, in a way, ends a period of uncertainty because no one likes to be in limbo. And I think for our fans, or for the fans of the Outlaws, it's good to know that there is new ownership and someone that has deep local ties, which is obviously advantageous in terms of building this business. So everything I've heard has been really, really positive, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Outlaws continue to succeed.
Jacob broke the story over at ESPN.com/esports on the Houston Outlaws sale. You can read that article there. Chris Chaney joining us live from Dallas, Texas. Chris, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.